Great skills again by him. Oh, marvellous goal by Lewis.
Welcome to the Rangers Journey.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Thursday night's edition of the Rangers Journal. This is your show. This is the Q&A night. This is a night that you all look forward to the most. So welcome to everyone that's going to join us tonight. I've got two fantastic guests with us tonight. We've got John and we've got Billy. John, how are you doing, my friends? You doing well?
Yep, doing good. Thanks, Chris. Looking forward to this tonight. Always nice to come on after a good victory.
Absolutely. It certainly is, mate. Billy, what's your thoughts? How are you doing, mate? You doing well?
Yeah. Things are pretty good in Rangers land at the moment. So yeah, happy to talk about last night, what's coming at the weekend. Bring it on.
Absolutely. Folks, for anyone that's just joining in, as I said at the start, this is your show, and we want to hear from you guys. We want to get the questions over to John, Billy and I, and we will do our best to answer the questions. Nothing is off topic, as you always know on a Thursday night when we do these Q&As, so anything you've got, you want to chat about, send it over and we'll absolutely have a good conversation. It's been a fantastic week for Rangers, gents. It's been really good. We've seen a victory last night, 5 goals at Ibrox. I can't remember the last time we had 5 goals in the league at Ibrox, but that was a turn up for the books. But really good victory, and it's all positive, as you say, Billy, in the land of Rangers at this moment in time. I'm sure we'll get into it. I'm sure we'll get into all the details and we'll see where we're at, and we'll see what comments come through as well, guys, and see what people's got. But the main question for tonight, folks, is can we win the league? That's the question we want to put to everybody. That's the question we want everyone to answer. And I would love to see your comments and your reactions. Can Rangers win this league? Given where we were at the start of the season, can we win the league? And gents, that's the first question I'm going to put over to both of you. So John, I'm going to start with you first of all. Topic of this evening, can Rangers win the league?
Absolutely. There's absolutely no doubt about this. I think we put ourselves in a great position. I think what we've seen last night, second half, definitely second half more than the first half. Mm-hmm. This team has got ability there. This squad has got ability there. We just need to unlock it. Manager's done really well, getting a lot of good results to put us in this position. I think next Wednesday night is the big night. Edinburgh Derby, we're away to Motherwell. It just feels like that's going to be huge in what's going to happen in this league title. Hearts game coming up, big. Yeah, I'm really positive for it, and I'm really up for it. I think that's the thing. We're right in this as a title race now.
Yeah. Billy, what's your thoughts? Can Rangers win the league?
Of course we can win the league. I think one of the great things about this title run-in, though, is you could make a cogent case for any of the 3 teams at the top winning the league. I mean, perhaps we're beginning to see Hearts' injury crisis take a wee nibble into the points. But realistically, I mean, you can make a case for Rangers, you can make a case for Celtic, and you can make a case for Hearts. My belief is building, but with caveats. I thought we were dreadful, the game before against Dundee. It looked like teams matching up against us were causing problems. Last night, how would we have done 11v11? The crowd had started to get antsy, and it's 0-0 at half time. There's so many unknowns. That this one of the concerns I've got with this team is they are building in confidence. They're building. Just in terms of the play in the final third last night, the second half, all right, it was kind of a training exercise. Was the first time really we were seeing the sort of quick, intricate, effective passing that Russell Martin promised us, quite frankly. So actually, seeing that gives me confidence. Flip side of that is I've had this concern all season that we don't have a leadership group of seasoned, proven winners, who, when you get into the squeaky part of the season, are going to be able to calm the young guys down, to tell them what needs done. I'm not saying we can't win the league. I'm not saying that'll be decisive. I'm just looking at the pros and cons in terms of it's going to be a kick of the ball changes the mood at Ibrox for the rest of the season. It's kind of like what John was saying, in terms of you can have a situation next week where goal by goal, like point by point, the balance is going to swing back and forth, the mood of and what worries me a wee bit is there have been signs of that some of the players tightening up when the pressure's on a wee bit. I'm hoping that the Cole Wilson and Romans and some of these guys coming in is going to maybe stop that. But sorry, you wanted a yes or yes, we can win the league. But what's fascinating about it is that there's so many variables in this, and it is going to be pretty fascinating. I just hope we're live going into the split, because if that is still a 2 or 3 horse race for those last 5 games, it's going to be phenomenal excitement.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree, Billy. I think the excitement levels for this league could be off the charts. It could be something we've not seen in a long, long time. And I think from a Scottish football perspective, it's even better. The attention it'll bring to Scottish football, if the 3 teams are still going at it at that split, I think will be absolutely incredible. So, yeah, absolutely agree with these gents. Just wanted to do a wee bit of housekeeping first before we go any further, gents. So, as always, guys, we like to call out our sponsors, and tonight's pod, as always, sponsored by the Bluebells Bar in Puerto del Carmen and Lanzarote. These guys help us out fantastically well. They're incredible for us, and the support they give to us is absolutely fantastic. So when you're over in sunny Spain, please go in and visit them, because the guys would love to host you in the bar. They're family friendly, eat, drink, chill and party. And as you always know, they show every Rangers game live over there. So please, if you can, there's nothing better than getting over to Puerto del Carmen, Bluebells Bar, getting in there for a wee soft drink or an alcoholic drink, whatever you want. Enjoy the Rangers games with the guys over there, and give a shout out to the Rangers Journal when you're there as well, folks. Folks, to everyone that's joining in, thank you. Comments are coming in thick and fast. We'll get some comments up and we'll get some questions to the guys as well. So keep them coming. As we said, the theme of tonight's show is, can we win the league? You've heard from the gents. Let's hear from you guys. Pop your comments in and we'll put it on the screen. Pop your questions in and we'll do that. We'll also talk through, obviously, last night's game in a little bit of detail. We'll touch on some of the new players that have come in and try not get too excited with some of them that we've seen. We're probably around 20 minutes or so last night, and you'll all know who I'm talking about with that one. And we'll also talk about what's coming up over the next few weeks as well, because there's lots to be excited about, as Billy mentioned there, around the game. So, first question that's come in tonight, gents, is, can we win it without losing another game? So, John, can you see Rangers going undefeated between now and the end of the season?
No, I can't, because I was there last night and I did see that first 45 minutes up close and personal. It would be lovely if we could, but I think realistically that this, without the new players really hitting the ground running and being at top form straight away, even just next week, going to Fir Park, it's tricky, What, they've not conceded a goal at home since October or something like that. It's something crazy. So I would love it if we could. I might just be telling myself we can't, so that the bumps in the road that are inevitably going to happen don't disappoint me as much as they might if I sit and say, yeah, we're going, that's it, 13 more games, we're going to win them all, and we don't.
Yeah. No, I hear you, and it's a tough one, isn't it, John? Because you want to go on the basis of, we're going to win every game between now and the end of the season. That's what you want to go on the basis of. But to your point, anyone who watched that first half last night, down to 10 men, I know managers will say when you're down to 10 men, it's really hard to play against 10 men. I don't think I'm exaggerating here when I say I thought Kelly played us off the park for about 20 minutes in that first half yesterday. I thought some of their passing, their movement was tremendous. And I don't know if that was just because we were so static or we just weren't getting the ball forward quickly enough. But if you looked at those two teams, it looks as if we had the man down and Kelly was at 11 men at that point in time. So is that the worry that we've come off the back, John, of Sunday, being so poor against Hibs, to then put that performance in the first half last night as well?
If you can give me a couple of minutes here, I might get a bit ranty. Sunday's result had been in the post for weeks.
Yeah.
It had been coming. Danny Rose done a fantastic job getting us results. This team has done a fantastic job getting us results. But I think we might all be able to sit and say, collectively as an attacking force, the performances haven't been there. They've just not. We have relied on set pieces. We have had sporadic moments of football.
Yeah,
I think what happened, especially half time, the comments around all that, it was a build up. We seen Sunday coming. Sunday happened. We got last night. It was really slow. It was pedestrian. There was limited risk taking. We are in a title fight. I think the three of us here have been through helicopter Sunday, goal difference, winning league championships. We all sat there last night and went, this could come down to goal difference. We need to speed this play up.
Yeah.
Playing against 10 men is tricky. The manager called it. You've got to move them about. You've got to try and find the space. But you've got to speed your play up to do that. Mm-hmm. What we've seen with Kelly last night was Kelly moved it quickly to break. Now, they only really had the one real chance. Yep. You see them try and move it about quickly to get round us. And that was what caused the frustration.
Yeah.
Second half, we picked the pace up. The new guys came in, you start to see the ball moving faster, and Kelly couldn't live with that. And that's when you really build them down. So
yeah,
we can start to see that building at a pace, the momentum coming. The results will come for us. The play will come for us. The concern is, do we go into another game at the weekend and next week where Danny Rill's got to go and speak to them at halftime and get that jolt from them, make those tactical tweaks?
Yeah. Billy, just following on from what John's saying there about that, I agree fully with everything John's saying about that first half and the change that had to happen through Danny, right? I'm also want to touch upon the fact that I felt that with Rangers maybe not been given enough credit for the second half performance last night. I think everyone's putting that performance down to Kelly exhausted themselves out. They went to the well, and that's how they ended up in the position where they gave those goals away. I personally don't see it like that. I seen it as Rangers came out in that second half. They upped it a gear. Gassama comes off, Asgard comes off, and I thought we changed it quite dramatically at that point. The new boys came in and they gave an energy to the team, which we hadn't seen for a while. Likes of Olsen, the likes of Romans when he came on as well. I thought they really just stepped it to the next level. Do you think, based on what you've seen in that second half and the movement and the passing, do you think we've got anything to fear between now and the end of the season in terms of something like Sunday or the first half happening again? Or do you think these new boys coming in will really step everything up a gear and all the team essentially is looking over their shoulders about the positions being unsafe? Because I think the positions were safe previously. It's now not. Does that push the guys on again? And to your point earlier, Billy, does that give them that little bit of a kick up the backside they probably need, with not maybe having the experience, but really just trying to go again between now and the end of the season and get this over the line?
I slightly touching on a point John was making about performances in recent games. We have nothing to fear but fear itself and some of the recent performances, because that is definitely something that, with young players and a team that hasn't been over the course, a lot of these players, bear in mind, a lot of these players have not necessarily played full seasons as senior pros, never mind being in a title running. I do think that the team last night deserves credit for being able to take on board what Danny Rule was telling them at half-time. So they are young and inexperienced, and they are making mistakes, but they do seem to learn, and he seems like a manager, unlike Russell Martin, who can actually convey his ideas in a way that they can implement quickly and effectively. I thought, I hate the term game state. There's a whole raft of jargon now in football, just winds me up, and game state's one of them. But I think last night there was an interesting element. John was saying that the Kilmarnock, was it John, or was it, it was yourself actually, Chris, I think was saying they played us off the park for 20 minutes. And I think that there's what happens in that situation is they're down to 10 men and they get an adrenaline rush, but they're in fight or flight. We now are like 11v10, and it's interesting. Danny Rule seems to put a lot of store in sports psychology, and rightly so. When you hear him talk about things, he seems to be quite insightful. And he talked about in his interview, his presser today, I think it was, about the fact that when you have 11v10, sometimes what happens is that introduces an element of hesitancy in the 11 players, because they think, well, we're 11v10, he'll do it, or one of the other players will do it. So instead of actually turning it up a notch, you actually do relax, not coast, but you relax. And that to me is the kind of inexperience that gives me a wee bit of a concern. You know, if you had, I do refer to this a lot, but Scotty Arfield 5 years ago would be the model pro to have in there. Someone who's running about going, right, we're 11v10, foot in the throat, keep the pace up, keep at them, keep at them, keep at them. That said, having had that first half, we come out the second half, and it's the old adage about earning the right to win a game. We go at them and we go at them and go at them, and eventually they break down. And to touch on your point, I have to say, to Romans, I was getting goosebumps watching some of the. I was getting flashbacks to prime Davy Robertson, and what you saw that really got me excited was we were doing the pass with slight variation in tempo. He comes on and suddenly it's like pass. He's nipping in between passes to flick the ball inside, and Kilmarnock don't have time to react to the point where when you're getting the Antman goal, Antman's got so much space because instead of it being pass and players moving into position, this guy's broken the script. He's nipped in, he's whipped the ball back, and Antman's got time to turn around and pick his spot. And seeing players like him come in and potentially do that thing of good players make other players play better, seeing the likes of him and Moore linking up, that gets me excited. I do think that you're talking about the team maybe not getting credit. I do think we're going to have to take a deep breath in the run in, because I understand people pay their money and have the right to express their displeasure. I've never booed a Rangers team in my life. It's just not what I do. I express my displeasure this sort of staunch Presbyterian way with stony silence. So I don't boo Rangers. I understand some people might do, but half-time when you're 1-0 up in the title race seems like premature for the few people that were doing that, because at the end of the day, if we are going to win this title, I can guarantee you that the fans will play quite an important part in that, and that may involve us like taking a breath sometimes and going, right, this is a young team, they don't have a Scott Arfield, we need to be supportive. They put in a rotten performance, we can boo in 90 minutes if that's your jam, but I think I think I'm optimistic based on the second half last night, but there's just again so many unknowns, and I do just keep coming back to that. You can see what Celtic are doing, trying to bring in Oxlade-Chamberlain, which I think wouldn't be personally go ahead. I think that'll be £2 million down the drain, and I'm not sure he's going to help you win the title. But you can see there's the thought there of actually getting a seasoned pro in, and I don't know if we've still got the option to do that with Freeze, but. I go back and forth between being super optimistic and having the fear, but it's compared to the start of the season when we were all mired in indifference and just apathy was everywhere. I will take this white knuckle terror ride any day of the week.
Absolutely, I'm the same, Billy. We've been there, we've done it. As John said, we've all lived through the 2 helicopter Sundays that we've had. We've been there, we've done that, we've wore the t-shirt. Now, don't get me wrong, that's why I'm bald now, Billy, because I was bald back then at the same time because of those 2 helicopter Sundays. So God knows what's going to happen if it goes to another helicopter Sunday is all I'm going to say in that one. But I would take it. I would absolutely take it right now. Folks, I just want to ask you all a massive favour, please. We are streaming across Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or X is what it's called now. If you can, please subscribe to our channels, share our posts, share our content. The numbers that have came in over the last few weeks has been incredible. We've reached massive milestones on YouTube, massive milestones on TikTok and things like that as well. Please, if you can, just keep liking, sharing. There's quite a few people watching just now. If you can like this, share it as much as you can. It would be really appreciated by everyone here. And it just helps get that content out to more people on an ongoing basis. Thank you for everyone for bringing the comments in. It's great. I'm going to touch on a few things as we go through. So if your comment's not been featured yet, don't worry, we'll try and get to it. We've obviously touched on Romans. We've touched on some of the new players and we'll come back into that. One thing that I'm seeing is obviously about what happened at halftime in terms of the fans and their reaction to that first half performance. We've seen it on Rangers boards this week. Yesterday, in fact, and today we've seen about Rangers fans getting a bit nervous because we've seen this play out before, John. Right, we've seen this story time and time again. The most recent one was with Philip Clement. He came in, won the cup. We were looking really good up to a certain point, and we went to Ross County and Dingwall done us, basically. Right, that was the end of that one. Rangers fans have seen this too many times, and we're not here to criticise anyone for booing or showing their displeasure, because they pay their money, they can do what they like, they can call that out. Danny Rule made a comment about it in the press conference last night where he said he was surprised at the reaction to the Rangers fans. And I think that's the first time he's really touched on the negative side of it. Was he right to comment on that in terms of how it was? And the reason I'm asking, was he right to comment on it? Is he right to comment on it from the point of view of the impact it has on the players? Or should Danny Rule have looked at that and said, this is the Rangers fans, they've been in this journey a long time now, they know what's happened before, they're maybe still got that PTSD, so we'll let them away with it on this time and not really mention it. And that's probably the question I want to ask the fans as well. Is what are their thoughts on it? What are your thoughts, guys, about Danny Rule's comments and where it's at? But John, what was your view on that last night in terms of the fans and also in terms of what Danny was saying at the press conference?
Yeah, so I was there last night. There was booze, yeah. I didn't think it was as bad as has been potentially made out that it was. That's the first thing I'd say, is it wasn't like a rounding boo, it was scatters of boos and things like that. There was a lot of frustration in the first half, and it was the speed of play, and it was the risk-taking part of it. It was everything was safe, and it was like, you need to be quicker here. And we've back to the point I was making of, this has been happening for weeks. It's not like this was a one-off. I think, see, if we'd had been playing really well, scoring 4 or 5 goals in a couple of games leading up to this, had a bad result at the weekend and then played like that in the first half, that doesn't happen. I think this has just been building up of not been getting a lot of chance creation and things like that, and a lot of goals. Was he right to call it out? I thought it was odd that he did it. I won't lie. I thought he could have worded it differently. If he's got a problem with it, fine. But the way he said he was surprised about it, and the team were 14 behind, they're now 3 behind, and they need a bit more support and all that. I thought, you've had a lot of backing. We've had a bad season. We've been through numerous bad seasons. It was frustration. It wasn't anger, and by the time the end of the game comes, the Danny Rule song's in, his name's getting sung. Everybody, see, once the goals were going in, everybody's delighted.
Yeah.
Nobody there wants to boo. Nobody there wants to be angry. They're right there. They want to get behind the team. They want to see good stuff. So I guess my overriding feeling just now is it feels like a mountain's been made out of a molehill.
Yeah.
It wasn't great from the fans. I don't boo, never have. I'm a bit more shouty and sweary and things like that. And there was a lot of hurry up from me, that type of thing. And if they'd done it in the second half, and it was great. Left Ibrox last night with a proper skip in my steps, and this is great. Can we have more of this, please? And it was just like, I don't know. I just felt too much has been made of it for me.
Yeah. I think you're spot on, and I wanted to touch up on it because I'm the same boat as you, John. I think too much has probably been made of it over the course of today, last night, and probably some of the fans' boards we're seeing and some of the message boards and things. I think too much was made of it. I think to the Rangers fans' point of view, though, and I think we're all in this boat, we're all nervous that the wheels are going to come off at some point, and I think that's where that probably stems from. That's where that is. There is a question here, though. Noxie's put it in, Noxie RFC's put it in, Billy, and I just want to put this across to you, right? And it's a good thought process on that Noxie's got. Has Danny Rule kept the new boys back from the first half to prove a point how well we've bought and to get us really optimistic about the signings? Now, I think it's a good point he's put in. Would I agree with what Noxie's saying there in terms of, did Danny Rule keep them back specifically? I don't think he did, because I think he's probably playing the rotation game. However, I think it worked to a treat, because what it did do last night for me is the likes of Gassama and the likes of Asgard, to join your point about the expletives, me and my boy were giving expletives to Asgard last night because he just didn't do anything in that first half at all, and that was another topic we can come on to in a minute. But from your point, Billy, did it work a treat in the fact that those new boys came in and they made such a difference to the team, to the point where, yeah, Kilmarnock could have been on their knees at that point, but the guys didn't stop. They kept going. And I think if that game goes another 5-10 minutes, you could see Rangers going to score another 2 or 3 goals at that point in time.
Yeah, I mean, it worked out perfectly. I don't think it was part of a Danny Rule master plan. I think he seems very careful about minutes and rotation. You know, he gives Mikey Moore a rest and he plays him a full 90 minutes. Presumably won't play 90 minutes at the weekend. I mean, he did make a good point. I think Danny Rule, presumably because of the clubs he's been at, I think he's very careful about what he says. I mean, actually, just to circle back to the whole, like, the boos at Ibrox, they were limited and a big deal has been made out of it, but buckle up, like, everything's going to get magnified in the next couple of months. Yeah. What I would say is I think Danny Rowe's very clever because there are going to come points at which we're at Ibrox and we're a goal up and 20 minutes to go and someone's going to equalise and it's going to be a boiling massive emotion. And I think what he's doing now is sowing the seeds in the support's mind that when that moment comes and things are febrile, it's time to channel that emotion into a roar and to get behind them rather than get on top of them. He knows he's got a young team who haven't done this before, and he's doing the really smart manager thing of, moan about it when you're winning. Coming out and saying, that seems a bit much at half time when you've actually won 5-1 and everyone's happy. That's the time to do it. He's going to get kicked back against it because, Rangers fans have got like diametric opinions and just about everything. So he won't please like everyone all the time. But I think he was quite smart. I think he's trying to protect the players. He's looking down the line. As far as the second half yesterday, again, we're up against 10 men. You've got Skova Olsen coming on. You've got Tua Romans looking like he's been here for years and he owns that side of the pitch. It was a perfect storm in terms of getting the best out of the players. And I think Danny Rowe again was quite careful that when he was flattering Tua Romans, he made the point of saying that their defence had basically been up against Magoma running at them for 70 minutes or whatever it was. So that's true. If you're going to have like Magoma's been solid for us, better than solid this season. So I think it's almost like the timing is kind of perfect to have these reinforcements come in, and I think the reinforcements are hopefully going to do two things. They're going to take the weight off of the likes of Gassama, who's been getting a lot of grief but has appeared in every game this season because he does stuff for the team. It's going to be a relief to players, and once they catch their breath, it's hopefully going to put a wee bit of a fire under them as well. That's what you want. You want a team that's competitive. You want to give support to players so that they don't end up getting injuries in the second half of the season. And you want them to go, like Jason Magoma must be feeling pretty good about himself. And then he's seen Tua Romans last night and must have thought, holy crap, I'm going to need to step my game up here. So I think it is a win-win. I think Danny Rowe's smart. I don't think he's that smart. I think he wanted to win that game last night with a minimum of fuss as quickly as possible. So I don't think you hold back your best options and put them on in the second half. You get the game won and then you worry about that. As it turned out, like goal bonanza in the second half. So everyone's happy. Well, mostly.
I don't think we're ever going to be happy across the board, are we, Billy? I think that's definitely the problem at the moment. We could be miles ahead and there would still be some complaints from some sections, but that's just the way football is, isn't it? We always complain about something, so we do. Folks, we're probably halfway through the show already. First half hour has went so quick. So thank you all for tuning in. As our esteemed boss Scotty said, smash that like button if you can, folks. Get the likes in as much as possible. Keep the comments coming. Some great comments. I'm just going to pick one out there. Afman Ute says Olsen's goal I thought he took well. Quick dink into the top corner. John, how impressed? I say how impressed. I'm going to put this another way, right? Scott Olsen's came with a big reputation, massive reputation. He's somebody that Rangers have looked at for a number of years under different managers. The first 2 games he's came in, for me, you can tell he was not fit and needed to get up to speed. Last night, I'm trying not to get too carried away because there's some others that said he's came in against a Kilmarnock team who was probably on the last legs at certain points, right? But I thought he'd done really well last night. I thought he'd get more involved in the play last night, not just staying on the left. He was switching left to right, going in centre, took his goal and had a couple of chances as well. Was that the type of performance you want to see from Scott Wilson? And do you think that can only get better as time goes on?
Definitely only going to get better. I think the goal is stuck under his feet. It's perfect the way he just lifts it up into the top corner. That's class. That's what that is, and that is a case of doesn't matter who you play against, how tired they may be. That finish is just first class. I think what you seen last night, and not to keep on the Tour Romans train, but the way Romans played, that kind of overlap and underlap, it shifted the team about. It let Antman go out wide. It let Moore come in a bit, and it brought Scott Olsen in. It shifted the team, so where he went, the team kind of moved around it. Whereas sometimes we think, get Jock in his boots out in the wing. He's wanting to come in. He's that kind of wide attacker that's going to score you goals. He's going to do exactly that. So, I think what we seen last night was a glimpse into the future of what a Danny Rowe team might look for, and I will not throw the grenade of saying we need a Tour Romans on right side. I'm not going to do that just yet, but if you have 2 fullbacks doing that type of thing with 2, kind of inverted wingers type things cutting inside, you still go, right, I see what the plan is here.
Yeah.
He's a great player. He's just got to get his match sharpness, and that'll come. I hope to see him start on Sunday. I hope to see all the new signs play from the start on Sunday, get the minutes in the legs, get the confidence up.
Absolutely. I think, folks, as well, for me, one of the things I really liked last night was Antman when he came on. I thought he was hungry. I thought he looked sharp. Again, I'm taking into consideration the circumstances with everything that is there, but I did think he looked sharp and he looked different on that left-hand side. He normally plays on the right. I think Mitch, I want to quote Mitch here. Mitch said in a Q&A last week, I think it was, that when Antman played in Holland his last season, he actually played off the left more than he did play off the right, which was surprising. I wasn't aware of that, and I thought he'd have played more on the right because he is obviously a right-sided player. But do you think, Billy, Antman should be getting a run out in that left-hand side? Because we talk about Kasama, we talk about Asgard, right, and we talk about how they're not really living up to things at the moment. Mikey Moore had a fantastic game last night when he came on, and I thought he run ragged across the team. I don't think Kilmarnock could handle him last night. I would like to see Moore more as that middleman, number 10, and then obviously use your Antman and use your Scott Olsen's as the wide approach. But in terms of the Antman and the Scott Olsen partnership on the wings, is that something you could see going forward? Or do you think Danny Rowe's got the likes of Gassama and Asgard as his front men and the rest are just going to play for the scraps? What's your thought on that one?
I mean, whether or not Antman is going to come into the team and have a run will be interesting to see, because Danny Rowe has come in and he's improved players. You can see players improving week on week, and he's given players a chance as he's wont to do, because he came into Binfire and didn't have the option of bringing anyone in until January. So Antman's had time. I know he said, like he said, niggles to deal with, but he's had time to show what he can do in training and hasn't forced his way into the team. What I would say is we've seen enough of him to know that in this run-in, and again, it's all about that, in this run-in, he could be a valuable alternative to Gassama, for example. We're talking about Magoma running a guy ragged and then unleashing 2 Romans. Imagine you're a defender and you have 60 minutes of Gassama going at you, and then you bring on a fresh player to do the same. I know we sometimes make the mistake of thinking getting up to speed in a game is a challenge, and it can be, but the reality is, you know what it's like. I mean, we're not professional players, but you know when you're playing with your mates and you've been playing for 60 minutes, you know, you are blowing out your backside, and the notion that you're up against someone coming on fresh. I've seen enough of Ant-Man to think that he's got a lot to offer, but I can also see why he hasn't been in the side, because I think Gassama does what he does a bit better, and I think his form seemed to go a bit off a cliff under Russell Martin, which, so did everyone's. Maybe he was just a bit more traumatised by the whole Russell Martin experiment than everyone else. I think Danny Rule, if you're still there, and I look at the likes of Finlay Curtis going out, and I was someone who I was converted to keeping him. I wasn't overly impressed for parts of the season. He scores goals, he's tidy, but was he doing much? And then in the last 2 or 3 games before the window closed, I was sort of counterpointing games where Mikey Moore, when he's on fire, is some player, but he still has that younger player tendency to go on a mazy, run into dead ends, not release the ball at the right time. Last night he was much better, but Finlay Curtis is almost like, if you know you're a more limited player, you think of the goal against Porto. He gets the ball, gets his head down, drives on 10 yards, whips the ball in. No sort of like fancy stuff, no sort of overcomplicating. And I did think that Finlay Curtis looks like he could be a useful instrument in the run-in. The fact that he's gone and Ant-Man's been kept, to me, suggests that Danny Rule sees a use, whether it is just giving Gassama rest, giving him some minutes to rest other players. I don't know, but he's got a goal threat. If we could suddenly get him playing with a bit of confidence, because he was like either the top or second top for assists in the Eredivisie, so he can do that. And if Danny Rule's got him in the team last night when he's throwing everything at it and seeing how they all kind of. What the interplay is like. I didn't think he looked out of place last night. Thought with better players playing better, he played better. So I think there's promise there. Whether there's a confidence issue, he needs to build that up, I don't know. But I think if you're still in Danny Rule's squad now, the window's closed, he's going to be using you, or you're in his plans. So it's then up to you as a player what you want to do about that.
Absolutely. Folks, keep your comments coming in. The comments are fantastic. I'm trying to read through them just now, and also listen to the guys at the same time. So, us men can't do 2 things at once, unfortunately, most of the time, and that's where I'm struggling at the moment. So, John's saying actually he can do 2 things at once. There you go.
No, I just wanted to jump back in, just in Billy's point there about Ant-Man. He'd been out injured for a while. I think I'm just wondering if anybody else thinks this, that actually Danny Rule and his team are now protecting players coming back from injuries until they are properly ready to make an impact. Look at it with Romans. Romans was, he'd 4 or 5 games out for Westerlo, then had 2 games back before they went in the winter break. And it was, we're not throwing you straight in, we're going to get you up to full speed. Ant-Man's been back on the bench, but he's not been featuring in it. And I wonder if that's what the management team are trying to do, is actually not throw them in before they're ready to go, but give them a bit of extra time and say, no, I'm going to put you back in when you're properly fit and ready to go so you can make an impact. So instead of just saying, well, I'm going to throw you in and you're injured and you're maybe not going to be at your best and you're just going to look even worse. That protecting of the players to get them in the right places is very beneficial if it works.
I agree, John. I think you're spot on. I think it's been really interesting because some managers would just throw them back in again, and that's when fans can get frustrated if they're not back up to speed. But I thought Ant-Man, when he came on last night, took his goal really well. Got an assist for Moore as well, which was great. And he gave something a little bit different on that left-hand side as well, which I thought was fantastic. So, long may that continue. I want to shift tactics a little bit in terms of look at more the defensive situation. So, couple of things obviously just to touch on, and it'll be great to get people's comments on, would be Jack Butland has a howler last night, first howler that he's had in a while, and you look at that and you think to yourself, should we be playing that ball back there? Should Jacob do that? I don't really know, but look, hopefully it doesn't come back to bite us at the end of the season, but I thought that one was a bit of a calamity. The reason I want to switch to backline, Sean has put a comment in, which I think is a really good comment. Can we discuss Jiga for a little bit? I think he has been really good recently. Now, I actually spoke to a few people at the game last night around this one, and I thought taking Jigga's long john attire away, which was just absolutely mental. Now, I think back to things here, and I know it's a different game, right? I know we're in a different element now, but I just think back to me, see if that was under Walter Smith. There's no way that guy's walking out of the dressing room with those long johns on. It's not happening at all, right? So for me, that needs to be cut out. I'm a bit old school that way, and that shouldn't be happening. But taking that aside, Nasser Jigga, I thought John had a really good game last night. And it's probably, I don't know if it's because he's with John Suter and he's got that little bit of experience there. But to Shona's point, I think Nasser Jigga, since he's came back from the African Cup of Nations and he's came in, he's actually steadily grown on me a little bit. Manny Fernandez has obviously been brilliant because of the goals he scored and stuff like that. But Jigga, I think, has just been quietly going about his business and really just been that little bit steady in there. And we've stopped hearing the grumbles about Jigga's a scarefest and all that sort of thing. What was your thoughts on him last night? Were you impressed with what you seen, or do you think he managed to stroll it given the situation in the game?
I think he's been playing okay for a while now. I think we just have scars from the start of the season and some of the things that went on there. You see it with Fernandez as well. When Fernandez goes to step out the back and maybe take somebody on, everybody's in a panic. And in actual fact, he's got it under control. We've just got that fear from early doors. I think we've asked Jigga to keep it simple. And I think that's the benefit. Also as well, Jigga's like a year and a bit younger than Fernandez. And I forget that as well. He's the youngest player in the centre halves that we've got. So probably a bit more prone to some errors. But his recovery pace is the best we've got. And it is a great weapon to have and a great guard to have for the centre halves. So I quite like him. I always have quite liked him. I've maybe overlooked some of the faults earlier in the season for my own wrongdoing. And I think he's done well with Fernandez as well. So I think there is growing signs there. He is not, in my opinion, a £10 million centre half. That's just Premiership inflation. But yeah, he's done okay. I think they all have. I think they've all settled down. They've started to try and do what they do well. And that's all you can ask of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Billy, anything you wanted to add on Nasser Jigga, or even, I know we missed Manny Fernandez last night and he wasn't there, and he gives us something totally different with his height and he's probably scare tactics as well sometimes. The way he dribbles the ball at defence just gives me the absolute fear sometimes, but he's quite good at it. But what's your overall thoughts on the defensive lineup, where it's Jigga, Suter, Fernandez? Who do you think's the right combination out of those ones?
It's maybe slightly controversial to say, but I think in most seasons this defence doesn't have us anywhere near winning a league title. And to be honest, Jigga came in and for about a game and a half looked quite tidy and then went off a cliff. So he has looked better the last few games, but there's that thing in the back of your head that if he reverts to that sort of form, we would have a massive problem. Fernandez has gradually got better. He's kind of done what you want young players to do. He's improved under a good coach. He does not lack for confidence. He's a goal threat. So Fernandez is one that could have a future at Rangers. Jigga, like John was saying, that's what 10 million quid gets you down south. Like a potential and a bit of a punt. I have to say, totally agree with you, Chris, that the white long johns, that's where Danny Rioux, will never be Walter Smith. You wouldn't have dared pull them on in front of Walter Smith. You would have got the look. And if you are going to wear long johns, for the love of God, wear black long johns where people can't see how much you've been sliding and tackling, because for a lot of that game they looked pristine, and that's not a great look. One thing I would slightly pick up on is that Jack Butland. You're saying he hasn't had a howler in a while. I know that it was mainly Tav's fault for the goal against Porto, but he was not too clever there. And there was one earlier in the season, so he's kind of he's neither as good as he was in the first season, nor the sort of like fail army compilation of goalkeepers that he was last season. But you think about the Rangers goalkeepers we've had in the past, and Alan McGregor had a blooper in his career, and then a few towards the end where it was just he couldn't move his feet, and that wasn't his fault. Jack Butland does give me a wee bit the fear, but he has, if he's going to do something like that, do it in a game where we're up against 10 men and we win 5-1, because he's won us points this season, and I get the impression that for all that he exudes confidence, I think he is a bit of a streaky confidence goalkeeper, and I would not like him to go into a spiral, because I think we saw that last season. Last night, I think he can shake that off. He can. It didn't cost us anything. It's one of those freaks of nature. Move on. If that started happening every 2 or 3 games, I'm quite glad we've got Kelly on the bench, because I've never known. At Rangers, we have been blessed with like world-class keepers. Arguably, for the league that we play in, the level of keepers we've had historically is insane. But I've never known a goalkeeper as streaky as Jack Butland. He's almost flawless. Or last season, like such a bin fire, he had to be taken out of the team. So I'm hoping that's just one of those anomalies. It happens once a season. Keepers have those sorts of things. It doesn't get into his head, and he does what he's been doing for a lot of the season, which is pulling off top-class saves and winning his points. As far as that back four goes, though, I don't think Souttar's ever quite lived up to the potential that we hoped he had. Giga, if he goes down south with a league winners medal, good luck to him. Fernandez is the one I'd be holding on to. I wouldn't be against keeping a hold of Magoma, but from what we've seen, the two Romans, that could be his backup to Romans. What will be interesting for next season is what we do at right back, because that is a weakness at the moment when you're looking at the likes of Cav and Aarons. That's an area you would target as the opposition. And it'll be interesting to see what we do there. And I guess the other wild card is Cornelius. Does he get back in this season? I was never that excited about Cornelius, because his history is he goes to clubs for a year and a half. He's solid, but not indispensable, and then he moves on. So I think there's a lot of work to be done for next season. But this defence is somehow the best in this league. So on that basis, they could win us this particular league, as weird as this season has been.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think I take your point on the Butland situation. The ability, he has saved us a number of times this season. He's won his points left, right, and centre. So I was probably a bit critical of him, if I'm being totally honest. But no, I like him. I think he's a great goalkeeper, and I think he's the one that I think needs to beat Rangers for a long time, because he's got that ability to pull a save off McGregor-esque or Borum-esque. He's also got that ability to make a howler like he done last night, and that's the worrying part of it for me. I'm just looking at some of the comments that are coming in. Doddington saying Danny Rowe will definitely buy a right back in the summer. I think he's absolutely right. You'll buy someone there on that one. There was another one that came in that says Magoma and Moore have done wonders for their careers on loan at us. I think they have. I think both have really stepped up to another notch. It'd be really interesting to see if we can talk to Tottenham about Moore and see if we can keep him for another season. I think that would do the boy wonders, and you would got to think that the boy would want to take that on as well. So maybe that's something we can look at. Doddington again makes a really good point. Big teams down south will not be queuing to send young talent up to us after seeing what Danny Rowe has done with the young loans we have. I wouldn't argue with that. I think Doddington's right in that. I think Danny Rowe has done a great job with those guys, and I think the more he does that, the more people will want to send the young players to us and get them up to speed. So some great comments there. And as always, as we know, folks, it's a Q&A show, so there's a couple of questions come in I'm going to put to the guys, but a question that I want to put to everyone watching, and John and Billy, I'll give you a wee bit of time. I'll come to you just before the end of the show and I'll ask you this question. But now that we've seen the 4 signings and some guys over the last couple of games, and we know it's there, I would like everyone to put in what they think the strongest 11 is going to be for Rangers going forward. And based on what we've got, who do you think your strongest 11 is going to be? So please, guys, pop it into the chat if you can. Pop it into the comments. Give us your strongest 11. John and Billy will come to you a couple of minutes before the end of the show. We'll get your strongest 11 as well, see what you think. And it'll be interesting just to see some of the variations that come in that. It'll be a really interesting one. And Paul has put a question in though, and he says the question for the guys to answer next week is it'll take time, so we're putting this out there for next week. Pick a competitive Rangers 11, no British players, must have played for us and can only have one per nation, any formation. So that's not one for tonight, but I think, Paul, that is an absolute belter of a question, and we're going to put that out to everyone at the Rangers Journal for next week, and we'll come back with an answer on that one for next week, so we will. So we'll note that, Paul, and we'll get you an answer, and we'll start the show off with that one next week, because I think it's an absolute belter, mate. What else have we got coming through? We have got a few. Tim Sherwood wanted Moore back in that window. Paul saying that just shows you how well Moore's done in that sense. So I totally agree with you on that one. He's done really well. And a few other comments has been put through. So apologies if I've missed any, folks. I'm trying not to miss anything that's coming through, but if I have missed anything, I do apologise. Pop a comment in and we'll try and get it. Shona is saying hers has been patched. Shona, we're not patching you, I promise. So if I've missed one of your comments, not put it up, I do apologise, Shona, but please just pop it back in if I've missed anything and I'll get that back up for you. Gents, I want to just quickly shift attention a little bit, looking ahead. So we've got obviously Queen's Park on Sunday, John. We're all scarred from last week, still on or last year, sorry, from the Queen's Park situation in the Cup. John, I just want to ask the question, should this be a more straightforward position for Rangers in this game? And can you see any concerns coming from this weekend at all?
No. I think it's a different kettle of fish this year. I think we were getting towards the end of the Philip Clement era at that point, and things had been a bit rocky. And that was the kind of peak of that, or the trough of that kind of time. I think Danny Rule will not let that happen. I think you've seen that with the Annan game. Professional, we're a better team. We'll go out, we'll score the goals. We will not underestimate it. We'll not go in two-footed on them either. So I expect a good professional job done on Sunday. Expect the new players to be in. I think the one thing we're seeing now is with a bit of competition for places, people will get chances to dip in and out. You'll still see players in there, that first team players that will continue to be first choices. So, I expect it to be handled
pretty easily, you think?
I'm not going to say easily, I expect it to be handled.
I say that with some trepidation because you never know, so you don't. So, yeah, I'm the same. I think it's going to be an interesting one Sunday, John. I think it goes with a strong 11. I think he's got the players now that can go with that strong 11. Would you expect, John, to see all the new signings starting in there, or do you think he holds anyone back?
I would expect them all to start, considering none of them started last night. I think that is why. I think you'd be missing a trick not to start them.
Yeah.
I would also say as well, given it's Queen's Park Sunday at 2:00, if you want to maybe put some numbers on the crowd, have the new players starting, and build a bit of excitement around that.
Yeah, it's a good shout. Really good shout. Shona's come back to us, gents, with our update, so thank you, Shona, for that. She said, hear me out, if Jigga does well from now to the end of the season, could we get him on the cheap with Wolves likely to get relegated and probably will want to punt him? Very good question, Shona. My view on that one would be I don't think Danny Rule will go for him next season. I think he'll maybe look elsewhere. Maybe the price tag, 10 million Wolves paid for him, I think it was. I know if they get relegated, they might shave a couple of million off that, but I don't think, based on what we've seen overall, he's been okay, but I don't think you're paying anywhere near 5, 6, 7 million for this guy next season. It would need to be a lot cheaper for that from me in order for him to stay on. But I think personally, just my own personal opinion, I think Danny Rule would go for someone else. I think he'll look, it may be his own signing, because I don't think Jiga certainly wasn't his signing. So I think he maybe go for something else on that one. Billy, do you disagree with that one, or you agree with that one at all?
No, I think if we can get a tune out of Giga for the rest of the season, fine, send him back on his way. He has been patchy. If he's solid for the second part of the season, fine. Does he want to be here long term? He's up to rehabilitate his career in many ways. If he suddenly became a world beater, great, but I don't see that. I'm quite happy with what seems to be becoming sort of like a bit of a Danny Rule trademark, which is incremental improvement, which is what you associate with good managers and trainers in any workplace. So, if he improves them, and to go back to your point, sends them back down south a better player, then we don't want to be swimming in the loan market too much. But sadly, that is the reality of Scotland sitting next to England and the financial situation. We will be taking in loans next season. Some will just be to develop players for other teams. Some will be with options or maybe obligations. But no, for me, if he goes away with a winner's medal, I'd be happy to keep Fernandez and let Giga go back down south to Wolves.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question I've got, Billy, I'll come to you first on this one. It's a question that's come in from Paul. Question, if we get Dow, this is Jens Hertel Dow, what he's referring to, in the summer, do you think Raskin can be sold? Now, Billy, I'll just caveat this by saying, apart from a £25 million bid from Forest for a player across the city who cannot even lace Raskin's boots in the national team, does Raskin go in the summer if Dow comes in? And probably the next question on that is, what sort of price do you think we can command for Raskin, given the fact that it's going to be after a World Cup, if I'm wrong as well?
Well, first of all, to touch on the situation with the bid that went in for Engels across the city, I think what you saw there was a touch of desperation. Apart from it, they were lumping £6 million on overnight and add-ons and all sorts. What I find interesting is that a lot of the transfer market now seems to be driven by underlying data. So that's why you are seeing the likes of Chermiti apparently subject to a bid for 13 million. You're seeing Gassama, apparently we're knocking back 10 million for Gassama. Because although the eye test is telling you that there are things that they really need to improve on to be more rounded players, that underlying data is saying these guys are covering X amount of yards, they're getting into certain places, they're doing certain things. And I think Arnie Engels is a case in point. I think Forest have looked at the underlying data, and I wonder how that data compares for someone like a Raskin, because we've seen Old Firm games where Raskin is basically run the midfield, and Engels has kind of looked like he won the chance to play for Celtic on that given day. And I wonder, though, if people look at it and think Raskin's a good wee one versus Engels, who's a mediocre big one, and maybe they can get more out of an Engels. I don't know. From what I've seen in terms of who's a better player, this is not bias. It's no question that Raskin's got so much more in his repertoire. Good grief, he's more of an aerial threat, and he's about 2 feet shorter. So that kind of tells you who's got the footballing brain. What I would say, though, is I think Raskin, I suspect that the plan all along is for Raskin to go in the summer. Now, should we win the league and Olympiacos don't win their league and we are straight into the Champions League next season, maybe that will change his thinking. But I think discussions have been had, to use the sort of journalistic jargon, because for the longest time it looked like we were drifting into the kind of situation that Raskin was at his previous club. He wasn't getting on with the manager, he was drifting out of plans, it looked like he was agitating for a move, and then suddenly it's all fixed. And what do you know, the information that's coming out of Ibrox, that everyone was on the understanding that he only had like X amount of time left in his deal. Oh, there's another year on that nobody knew about, that nobody had clarified, that we were all under this misapprehension, and nobody bothered to tell us, put us straight in the facts. And I wonder if basically they've quietly added a year onto his deal and said, look, that protects us. We'll give you a bump in your salary, and post the World Cup, if you get a big offer, you go with our best wishes. I mean, it's a lot of joining the dots, but that whole situation with the mysteriously found extra year in his contract was an odd one. The fact that his dad seemed to be quite vocal, and good on him, you want your dad to have your back, but his dad was quite vocal, and Raskin had been through a similar situation, and then it's all just settled down. I felt for part of the season that Raskin's played like someone who wants to get to a World Cup and get a big move sometimes I felt he's played within himself. Hopefully now he sees shiny things and keeps the levels up. But I would be unsurprised if he's off in the summer. And if Arnie Engels is going for 25 million, let's be honest, it wasn't 25 million, it was 20 million with add-ons, and it was like a last throw the dice. Honestly, a good World Cup, I could see Raskin going for 20-25. I'm not sure I see a midfielder from Scotland going for much more than that. But, again, if we win the league, that might add something onto it. So, I think he will. If I was betting man, which I'm not, I would be betting on him going in the summer, and I would be happy with anything north of 20 million.
Yeah. Big Shuggy's just put on midfield badly needs a freshen up in the summer. Maybe it's time for Lewis Ferguson. I think it's a great shout. I think Lewis Ferguson for Rangers would be tremendous. I really do. And maybe after a World Cup, you never know. We'll see how that plays out. I think the other Short's put another question, and come the summer is who our next captain is if Tav leaves. Again, that's another question we could talk on. You've got a few in there. You've got Suter, you've got Butland, but Suter might even be away at the end of the season as well. We don't know yet what the situation is there. We've not even touched on Tav, folks, too much in this situation, and we could have had a whole pod about Tav and what's going to happen contract wise. There's been murmurs today. I don't know if anyone's seen it, but there's been murmurs today around social media around potentially getting offered a year or 2 years deal is what's been talked about. Whether that's the case or not sure, but maybe that's one we look at for next Thursday on the Q&A and see where we end up with that one. Folks, I'm conscious of time. I'm conscious we are just about reaching my time where we need to start to think about wrapping up. I did ask a question earlier on to say who would be your top starting lineup. So your first 11. Now that we've got a team in, we've got the signings in, etc. So I'm just looking at the comments at the moment. There's been a few that's came in, which I want to just bring up on screen, and then John, I'll come to yourself, and then Billy yourself for your team. So Paul is saying Butland and goal, Sterling, Suter, Fernandez, and Romans, and Chukwueze, Diamande, and Ant-Man, Olsen, Moore, and Nadiri. Looks a very, very different side to what we had start of the season. It's a good lineup, that one. There was also another one that came in from Noxie that said Butland, Tav, Suter, Mane, Romans, Dio, Raskin, Chukwueze, Olsen, Nadiri, and Moore. Olsen, Nadiri, Moore seems to be the theme up top. Alan is saying Butland, Sterling, Suter, Fernandez, Romans, Diamande, Raskin, Ant-Man, Olsen, Nadiri, Moore. Olsen, Nadiri, Moore again, as you can see. And then another one saying, Singing the Blues, saying Butland, Sterling, Suter, Fernandez, Romans, Olsen, Raskin, Diamande, Moore, Ant-Man, and Nadiri. So really good and great to see that, folks. Thank you for putting that in there. It was really good just to try and get an idea of what everyone's thoughts were on that one. So John, hit us with it. What is your starting 11? And if Danny Rose listening, is this who you would go with against Motherwell next week? Let's go for it. What you got for us?
Butland, Sterling, Suter, Fernandez, Romans, Raskin, Chukwueze, Diamande, Olsen, Moore, Nadiri. Go to a 4-3-3.
Mm-hmm.
I think Ant-Man came on last night, looked good. Am I ready to commit to Ant-Man being the full time wide left? Not yet. I think the 10 doesn't really work for us, given who plays in there. Yes, Moore done it really well last night. Can we keep that going? I don't know. I think him playing off the left in the first half was a sign as to what might come, especially in games away from Ibrox, where we do go a 4-3-3. And I think in Motherwell next week, I do think that will be the team.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. I like that. Billy, what have you got for us, mate?
I think we've cracked it. I was sitting there like I was filling out a bingo card. I've got the same as John. With just the possible question mark over whether Nadiri's up to speed, because he looked kind of promising last night, but also he has been playing. I don't know what the fitness levels are like in the third tier of German football. I don't know what he's going to be like in terms of like getting up to speed. Potential. He could get like a muscle niggle or whatever, trying to kind of go up a few levels. So between Nadiri and Chermiti for me as the kind of the focal point, I'm hoping that he's up to speed and he's able to go straight in and build on what he showed last night. But yeah, pretty much what John said. I think the defence sort of picks itself.
Yeah.
Like at Tavernier at right back, just towing a caravan doesn't begin to cover it, and I feel for him because as an athlete, he has been like really elite level for us. The way he could cover the ground. And it must be painful for him to realise that he is now vulnerable in ways that he wasn't like 5 years ago. Aarons is just, he's at the wrong club. It's just not worked out. So Sterling would be your man in there. I mean, we're putting Romans in based on a cameo last night, albeit some cameo. So yeah. He would be, if that's what he can produce for 90 minutes, absolutely. Wouldn't break my heart if Magoma's in there instead of him, but I think the defence picks itself. Midfield, again, I think you're looking at like Dio Raskin and Chukwani, and then up front, hopefully, and Olsen obviously as well up front, with either Naderi or Chermiti. So, I mean, we're basing a lot of it on last night, and we're hoping that that's a trajectory we follow. To go right back to the start of the pod, though, I think there's going to be ups and downs. Like 2 games ago, I was thinking, are we going into a dip because we looked like we were starting to struggle? And where we look like we're things are different from the Clement season is, I will sort of stand by the fact I think Clement could have been a very successful manager for us, but he was missold the project because Clement was brought into a side that wasn't good enough to win the league and got us in a title run in, and then had the legs taken away from him. Danny Rose came in and got us in a title race, and the 49ers have backed him. So this time round, I'm hoping that isn't a wee bump, but the trajectory last night is the rest of the season. And we maybe start to steamroller a few teams. Be nice to see it click against Motherwell, because I think, like John said earlier, that is going to be pivotal.
Absolutely. And what a week we've got coming up, guys. What a fantastic week. We've got Queen's Park on Sunday in the Cup at Ibrox. We've got Motherwell. Then we've got Hearts, I think it is, on the Sunday after that. We'll be at Livingston, then the big one at the end of the month. It's a fantastic couple of weeks coming up. This is the games you want. We don't want to be in a situation in February with nothing to play for and the league's out of sight. This is the games. But as we've been talking about earlier on, we just need to keep the head. I think the fans just need to keep the head and just back the players. As you said, Billy, when that situation comes, when the goal inevitably comes against us with 10, 15 minutes to go, it's the fans getting behind the players and getting them back and getting Ibrox roaring. Because when it's roaring, not a lot of people can come against us and put up a fight. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. Folks, I'm sad to say that's us come to the end of our show for tonight. We're probably just a little bit over in time. There's lots and lots of stuff that's come in, guys. Lots of comments, so thank you very much. As Paul says, folks, remember to like, share, and subscribe for more content. There's lots and lots of content on the pods over the course of the week. Lots of member content if you subscribe as a member. Please go onto our socials, like, share, comment on all the stuff that we've been talking about, and keep the comments going, guys, because this show tonight is all about you, and it's all about what you want to talk about. We've tried to cover most of the things that you've come in with, so thank you for coming in with the comments. John, just finally from yourself, what are you expecting in the next week or so from Rangers? When I say the next week, I'm talking the next couple of games. Obviously, we'll get to Hearts after the Motherwell one, but in your eyes, what constitutes as a good week's work for Rangers?
2 wins. Simple as that. Sunday should take care of itself. Next week, I want the best birthday present I can have next Wednesday, and that is a Rangers win. And I think, given how Motherwell play, they will come out at us. We will have the space to play the game we hopefully want to play in. Yeah, bring it on. Absolutely.
Billy, what about yourself? What's your expectations and what constitutes a good week for you in the eyes of Rangers?
A good few goals and a run out for the newbies against Queen's Park, and any kind of win against Motherwell, because their home record is quite impressive. But these are the games, these are the bellwether games. If we go there and get 3 points where other teams have been dropping them, those are the games that really start to get you thinking this could be our year. What I would say though is, if we don't win at Fir Park, equally important is that we don't go off a cliff in this, because space of the last week, we've had Celtic and Hearts drop 2 points, us drop 2 points, Hearts drop 3 points. You know, who knows what would have happened if Celtic, what am I saying? Celtic are playing Aberdeen, they would have horsed Aberdeen, they always horse Aberdeen. But that aside, you can see it's been one of those seasons where it may come down to marginal gains, and one of those things might be the team that doesn't let their head go down when they drop 2 points unexpectedly. But I hope John gets the birthday present he's after as well, because I think it'll put a smile on all our faces.
Absolutely, it will do. It will do that. Gents, thank you very much for your contributions tonight and for all your input. It's been absolutely fantastic, as always. Top-notch stuff from you both, so thank you for that. Thank you to our sponsors for tonight's pod, which is the Bluebells Bar in Puerto del Carmen, Lanzarote. Thank you to you guys for all your comments and putting your comments in. I apologise if we never got to everyone and never got some comments up. Lots and lots of stuff to talk about, and there'll be more for next week. And as we said, Paul's put a belter of a question in from next week already, so we'll get that across our channels in preparation for next Thursday night for anyone that's going to tune in for next Thursday. Folks, for tonight, that's all we've got for tonight's Q&A. There's been no VAR checks tonight. There's been no sending off tonight. There are absolutely no rewinds and looking at that, and we make no apology for that at all. If we didn't answer your question, it's not personal. It really isn't. It's Thursday night. Lots of stuff is coming in. You've been watching the Rangers Journal. Just remember, every night is Rangers Journal night. Thank you, and good night, folks.